I think this may be why a lot of people think the movie's kind of slow or maybe boring, because a lot of their scenes, they hold on things for a lot longer. Like, you never feel like Ryan Gosling is in a hurry. Like, in every scene, it's very slow and very trying to find the answers.
I feel like this is a movie that you have to be able to embrace the art of the film.
Yeah.
This isn't I'm going to go watch a sci-fi action movie. This is very much like, you have to be able to embrace the color and the setting and even the way that the emotions conveyed in scenes through character. All right, welcome back to the Movie Dads Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
That is Kyle. Kyle, we're back. Episode number 38. You need, I know, we keep saying that. Wow, it just keeps going. We're not dead yet. You need to see this movie, Blade Runner 2049.
Love it.
One of Kyle's favorite movies. Directed by Denis Villeneuve. We've got that right because we looked it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
kind of years. All these years. So wrong.
French Canadian. Leading us into next week's big premiere for episode 39 with Dune 2. So we thought we'd give him some love with one of your favorite movies of all time.
You can tell now, you as a fan base, you aren't here watching these movies with us. And when we do these movies, we're like, you have to see this movie. The whole time, the other person, the person who has seen it, that is making the other one watch it, we're like, I'm constantly like looking over to check. Like you had mentioned, like when you're showing your kids a movie the first time, I'm like watching to see your reaction, watching to see if you know what's going on, constantly being annoying and explaining things.
Well, I will say, like when we were watching this, we did watch this one together. We had a lot of dialogue because I had, was questions about, because there was things that I didn't remember from the first time I'd viewed this movie. I'd only seen it once before when we watched it the other night. A lot of good dialogue around the story, the lore, what happens in between the original Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. You kind of helped fill in some of those gaps that I don't think the movie does a great job of explaining during the process. But, it was good. One of the things that, and I know we're going to get into the movie more when we do the middle part, but one of the things that you always said about this movie is it makes the original better. Right? And it does. I totally agree, because Blade Runner is one of those movies you either love it or you hate it. I don't think there's an in between.
For sure.
But I do think this does enhance the experience. So, episode 38, Blade Runner 2049. But if you're watching us on YouTube, please click the like and subscribe. Click that bell. Leave us comments. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. This is ridiculous. That was a comment. That was good. I liked that.
What? Did I miss something?
I remember somebody left that comment and it was just, this is ridiculous.
Oh. Yeah, sorry. I was like, wait, what are you talking?
Somebody needs to specify that. No. But if you're not watching us, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can catch us on many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Index. You can see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Every fucking time.
Every time. But we're Movie Dads. We've got movie kids. I was solo parent tonight. My wife had a social gathering with some of her CrossFit friends. She's a CrossFitter. Yeah, she invited me. Said, pass.
Hard pass.
It was one of those things. You'd have been proud of me, Kyle. I said, I don't like people most of the time. Definitely don't like people I don't know that do cross. No. But so I said, no,
I'm pretty well known in our group to be the guy that's like, if Kyle will not go to it if he has zero interest in it. So.
Yeah. If there's zero interest, Kyle If there's
Or
this much interest, Kyle probably is not
if
coming.
there's 1% interest
Yeah.
for 99%, but not 100, I'm out.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
but I was solo parent tonight, so it was a gourmet cuisine of frozen pizza for dinner with the children.
Love
But I
it.
did take them to Dairy Queen afterwards. So kids get ice cream when they're hanging out with dad. But we sat down tonight and we watched both kids a movie they had never seen. I've only seen once the 2015 Adam Sandler comedy Pixels. We watched
Yeah.
that.
It's like live action with like video game stuff in it.
Old 80s video game, like aliens taking the place of video game. You know what? It was funnier than I remember it being the first time I saw it. It's not a good movie, but boy, it's the kind of movie that a 7-year-old would just freaking was like falling over laughing watching. So we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun watching that. But I get to be solo parent tomorrow as well. We're going to show choir again tomorrow. So Abby's taking her. So I get Dez. So I get to take him to basketball. And then, after that, we're going to do something fun, weather permitting. I'm sure we'll go to the park or, be hanging out outdoors. But I thought about taking him to
good weather.
Yeah, we do have some good weather. So it's been nice. But that's what we're doing this week. So,
dude, yeah, let's do something nerdy with the kids tomorrow. Let's take them to like freaking Dragon Lair or something, get them some comics or something.
Okay.
Because we typically our kids will go over to the in-laws for a night over the weekend. Usually we get pretty lucky with that. But we have a dance competition. My wife is a dance coach, teacher. Big dance competition in Chicago next weekend. So to prepare for that week, a full weekend with the kids, our in-laws have tagged out for this weekend. So we've got everybody. Mm-hmm. Steph will be at dance tomorrow teaching. So I will be home alone with the kids as well. But she gets on at like 12. So maybe after that we can fucking go nerd out.
Nice.
But yeah, nothing crazy in our house this week.
Mm-hmm.
We, Parker had me put on YouTube. There is, I forget the name of it. It's like Danny Go or something, but it's like this dorky, like kind of like Blippy guy where
there's like a million of them.
I know, but when you're watching, they play like a goofy song and he's like singing, but he's like running. It's kind of like Temple Run. Like he's running and you are watching. You're supposed to be like doing what he's doing. So we're like dodging like fireballs and the floor is lava. And so we did a lot of that tonight.
Nice.
And yesterday. And Cal is now like fully walking and like sprint walking around.
Yep.
So he's dancing his little butt off and he's been enjoying that too. So other than that, nothing too crazy this week.
We are recording pretty close together. So there's not a whole bunch of new stuff out there.
It's a good point.
This episode's going to come out a couple days after we record it, just because I have a work trip. I have to go to St. Louis for like 4 days. So it was like, just get this done ahead of time. So
gotta do it. Love it. Cool. Love that. Yeah. Well, I guess that takes us to my most excited segment, our 6 to Midnight. This is our segment where we talk about the things that we are excited about in the world of nerd. So whether that's video games, movies, TV, comic books, something new, movie trailers, old games we've stumbled upon, like whatever's got us excited this week, whatever gets us up. And for me this week, big news for James Gunn's DC world. They just did the first like cast reading of the Superman movie. Superman Legacy. So we got the first picture of the full cast with James Gunn. And because of that, it tripped me down the rabbit hole of looking at the slate of what we're getting to come out for these movies. And there's been enough time, but I don't think there will ever be enough time that it won't be a sore subject of Henry Cavill not being Superman anymore. Like, I can't believe that. Shocking. But I'm trying to get on board with the David Corn sweat thing.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the back of the group photo. You couldn't see anything but his face. So, like, we didn't get much. I want to see, like, freaking Chris Hemsworth Thor trailer 1 jacked.
You think that's intentional? I think it's intentional.
Oh, for sure.
Because like everything Corn Sweat's been posting too, he's like wearing like the baggiest sweatsuit.
Yeah, like giant hoodies.
Yeah. So you can't.
But in the weight room, so we know that he's working.
Right.
So, and then we got Lex Luthor had his head shaved. So like,
first look at Nicholas Hoult with his head shaved for Luthor. So yeah.
Which
it's hard to see. I still have a hard time visualizing it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say I couldn't really I didn't see the bald and go like, oh, that's Lex Luthor. I was more of like, oh, yeah, don't judge this. Don't judge the movie by this. This is just the cast reading. Like, there's no costumes, there's no makeup, there's no anything really related to the movie other than reading the script. But man, looking at the slate. What the hell are they doing? There is zero property on this slate that they've announced coming out that like I'm excited about, other than Superman Legacy,
right?
Which I think will be great, even though it doesn't sound like there's really any interesting bad guys in it. Lex Luthor and what's the name of the girl? Damn it, I can't think of the name. A very obscure, not really popular villain for that movie. Then eventually we're going to get Batman the Brave and the Bold, which is a whole other topic to talk about, in that they're going with the Grant Morrison run timeline. For those of you who aren't comic book related, Grant Morrison is who created Damian Wayne, who's basically Bruce Wayne's real son that he had with Talia al Ghul, the daughter of Ra's al Ghul or Ra's al Ghul, depending on what side you're on. And he basically, he has a son that he doesn't know about until he's like 8 or 9. The son was raised by the assassins, and he's literally a little murderer. He's a murderer, and then Batman takes him on and turns him into Robin, which he's just not a character that I like or enjoy. There's really no property that he's fun or cool, and he doesn't give a Robin vibe. He's a little shitty, spoiled brat with a really annoying attitude and everything. The whole Grant Morrison run of Batman comics was except when actually Bruce Wayne dies and Dick Grayson, it's like the first good run of Dick Grayson taken over as Batman, under the cowl as Batman. And that actually Damian Wayne does kind of good as Robin there, because he respects Dick Grayson. He doesn't respect his father. Anyways, I'm not excited about like jumping into, we're getting a brand new Batman where we know nothing about, and then we're jumping all the way to his like 5th Robin. Is he going to be the 5th Robin? Is it going to be his first Robin? And his first Robin is his son. I think Dick Grayson and Nightwing are going to be involved. So I was going to say, you think you got to have a run, like, so Batman's got to be older, right? You would think Batman's got to be 40s. Yeah, they said that Batman's going to be older than Superman.
Okay.
And the way they talked about it was they made it sound like, not like significantly, but it's not going to be like Superman's 30 and Batman's 32. It sounded like it was going to be like a 25 and a 40. So with that, we're getting a Superman movie, we're getting a Batman movie.
So you do like 30 and 42, maybe?
Probably
would match up.
That sounds more about right. Like, and now we're really,
you mean like Corn Sweat and Alan Ritchson, 30 and 42?
Yeah, so I see what you did there. Nice. But also, as you said that, I was kind of like, holy nerd. Like, I am being that DC fan right now that's really nitpicking the smallest thing ever. However, here's my point. The movies that are coming out, the first phase is chapter 1 is Gods and Monsters, which is all like okay, where are we going with that? We're getting Creature Commandos. We're getting a Waller TV show. We're getting Superman movie. Then we're getting Lanterns, which we are getting a Green Lantern in the Superman movie. So that's great. But we're getting The Authority. There's Swamp Thing. There's a Supergirl movie. There's a Booster Gold movie that's going to be coming out. Like, oh, actually, it's a series. I lied. It's a series. But still, Booster Gold and then Paradise Lost. I don't even know. Creature Commandos, Amanda Waller. What? You have DC, James Gunn. And I get that you had, I get Guardians of the Galaxy was a thing. It was a group of comic book characters that no one cared about or knew. They made them really popular, and now everyone loves them.
Then he did Suicide Squad.
Which I think is generally liked. For me,
his film was not the Ayer one.
Yeah. His one was like people enjoyed it. For me, I was just kind of one. I don't really. Suicide Squad again is not really like a group of heroes or people that I really am like invested in or care about.
Right.
And also, it was weird how they had already come out with a movie, and now this is a totally different one in a different world universe, but same actors or characters. It was just like
I thought it was a sequel.
I think they were kind of weird about it because there was a lot of things that didn't match up.
Because Waller was the same, Harley was the same, Captain Boomerang was the same. Colonel Flag was the same. They just
wasn't there an actor that was two different characters or something in it? Who was the dude who died early on? Oh, maybe I'm thinking Suicide Squad. He's going to be Green Lantern, Nathan Fillion. He was in it. Right?
Yeah, he is. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Anyways, maybe I'm all over the place. But like I said, like I didn't enjoy that first Suicide Squad enough that it kind of made me go like, I don't care about whoever or whatever is going on with the second one.
Yeah.
But again, I know he did great with Guardians. And so like, it just feels like this whole first chapter, this Gods and Monsters is like, let's try to do all of them as the Guardians, like get weird things that no one's really asking for. And let's do series and movies on them. And then we'll sprinkle a Batman and Superman in there to keep everyone happy.
So do you think his, and I'm just throwing this out there, we were talking about that, but do you think his idea is based on that? Like we just had an Aquaman, we just had a Flash movie. Like we haven't had a Superman movie in a while, right? Clearly.
Yeah.
We haven't had, Ben Affleck never had a Batman movie.
Yeah.
So maybe like we can take those characters and we can do something with them. Like maybe we don't want to do Flash yet. Maybe we don't want to do Aquaman yet because they just had movies. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That's a great point. That's a good point.
It could be his reasoning. Like those are going to be down the line.
Yeah.
Again, like we've talked about this before on a couple episodes early on. I just think it's easy to be skeptical, but at the same time, like I'm sure there's a plan. It would be nice if he told us what it is.
Well, speaking of, I mean, in the words of Stephen Amell, like stop talking and give us content, start making stuff. Like that was kind of an interesting, I guess, at first in my head, I thought that he was one of the guys that was in the running for Batman, but that I was off on that. So at first I was kind of like, wow, you're really just shooting yourself in the foot of getting any chance to be a part of this DC universe, but you've already been Green Arrow. So they won't cast you or bring you in, or would they?
I wouldn't think so.
But like he was at like a Comic-Con and was very like, I mean, you're doing a lot of talking, but like, you know what really gets people talking? Content. Make stuff. Stop talking and go do stuff.
He's not wrong.
Dude, yes, he's not wrong. Because it's been a long time since James Gunn announced kind of the slate, and we really haven't got anything. And again, that was kind of my other qualm with this, is this whole like chapter 1, God's Monsters, all this random shit that I don't care about except a Superman movie and a Batman movie. It's like stretched out over a number of years. So like 5 or 6 years until we're going to see anything else outside of that. That just seems forever away.
Sure.
I do. I mean, for me, the one thing that's like it's a saving grace. It's like, oh, I'm fine wherever you go with this, is because Matt Reeves has given us a great Batman, and that detective neo-noir dark Batman that I really like. And so I know we're going to get a second one, which that's also super far away. I know there was a strike. I know that was a big deal, but I heard that the script has still not been turned in yet. It's like actors.
I think Jeffrey Wright just said that, didn't he, the other day?
Yeah. Yep. So it just came out that like, so they were potentially, it hasn't been confirmed that it's going to get pushed back, but it sounds like that's the directions it's going with. They haven't even got the script in, so they haven't started building sets, and they're supposed to start like filming in March. So I don't really know specifically if they're going to push it back.
That doesn't sound good.
They're going to probably push back, and it's already fucking way, way out there. So
wasn't that supposed to be October of next year? Wasn't that the projected release date? Yeah.
Yes. So
Superman's July of next year.
Yeah, it's October of 2025 was technically when it's supposed to come out. But I don't know if it's going to stay on track.
Have to have it. You'd probably have to have a script by now for that. So
by now, yeah. So the Joker, Barry Keoghan.
Keoghan. I think is how it's
like his last name is so weird. He had said something like, no one sent me a script. I know he's not really looked at as going to be a really like a big pivotal character in the movie, but he's going to be in it.
He is going to be in it. I saw that too. That news is going to be confirmed. He's going to be in it. So
yeah, but he's like, I haven't seen a script. No one's talked to me about the movie at all. Like, I don't know anything yet.
He said that, and then I saw Jeffrey Wright said that. He's Commissioner Gordon. He said the same thing. So yeah, I don't know.
Anyways, I just want DC to do well. I again, like Waller, Creature Commandos, Booster Gold. Like, come on, dude. Like, give us, like, I would rather you do 2 baller ass movies that you're going to hang your hat on and not worry about. You're just going to make sure those are great. It feels more like they're throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping a couple of these stick.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Anyways, what you got for me? What's in your world?
Oh, just a little quick news roundup from the last couple of days. So I know you had talked about it previously, but True Detective Season 4 finished up last week. It was wild. The 5th episode, the penultimate episode of the season, boy, left a lot of things like hanging, a lot of loose ends to tie up, and that finale really did tie them all up. There were still a couple questions left at the end, but just about everything was kind of clean cut. I liked the ending. I thought it was great. It was the best season since the first one. But HBO Max has already announced that season 5 is a go, and they're going to have the same showrunner as this season was. So Issa Lopez is going to show run season 5 as well. So that's good. And then we had a trailer for the Borderlands movie, which is directed by Eli Roth. It's based on the video game series, the popular video game series that dropped the other day. I sent it to you. I didn't kind of get your thoughts on it. So it's Cate Blanchett, Kevin Hart, Jamie Lee Curtis, Jack Black's the voice of the robot. Boy, did it not look like you were watching a trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4? Did you get that vibe immediately?
Yes, that is a great comparison.
That's what it looked like. So I don't know. I mean, it's real colorful. Lots of, I think it had, like the trailer had one of the songs that Guardians used in one of their trailers, even like it was that close of a comparison. So I don't know. I mean, interested to see. It's a heck of a cast for a video game adaptation. We know those don't usually turn out that great, but kind of interesting to see that. And then wasn't really a confirmation, but it was Mark Wahlberg was doing an interview, and I don't remember what the interview exactly was for, but somebody had asked him if there was any news on Uncharted 2. He said, funny you mentioned that. I was just told to start growing out my mustache.
Let's go, Sully.
Yeah, so I thought that was basically like Mark Wahlberg confirming that Uncharted 2 is on the horizon. So
wink, wink.
Wink, wink. Nice. Exactly. No judge. And then just the last little bit of news. This just came out today, but Tom Cruise is slated to star in Alejandro Inarritu's next movie. Nobody knows what it's about. It's kind of a mysterious project he's working on, but he's pretty famous for doing The Revenant and Birdman.
What a beautiful movie The Revenant was.
Sure. God. And then Birdman we've talked about Birdman not that long ago too, movie. But you know, Tom Cruise is one of those actors that like he can act if he wants to. You know, I think you and I've talked about like The Last Samurai before and how good that movie is. And then have you ever seen Magnolia? Have we talked about that? The Paul Thomas Anderson movie. Yeah. He's awesome in that. I think he got nominated for an Oscar for that. Obviously Jerry Maguire, things like that too. But he hasn't, you know, Tom Cruise hasn't done anything like that in a while. He's been doing, you know, Mission Impossibles and things like that. So kind of interesting.
What was my Tom Cruise movie growing up? My Tom Cruise movie. When I think, obviously there's a million franchises and he's fucking great in all of them. My Tom Cruise movie in our family, Days of Thunder.
Oh, okay.
That was our movie. Oh, God. It's a fucking awesome movie. Get out of here.
Cole,
let me out of the car, Cole. Let me out of the car. Oh, old Nicole.
That's funny.
That was where they met.
Actually, A Few Good Men is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love that movie.
That is a great movie. That is a great movie.
Yeah.
I'm still upset that you're wrecking on freaking Days of Thunder.
It's a NASCAR movie, man. I'm just giving you shit. You know, I was actually, it's funny that was, I think, I'm pretty sure that was directed by Tony Scott. And we were talking the other day about Ridley Scott, and I was thinking about his brother Tony, and I was like, man, part of me thinks that Tony Scott has an overall better like movie slate than Ridley does, because he's had some shit movies the last like 10 years, and I'm just like, man,
his brother's like shooting percentage is a lot higher. Like Ridley is like 8 for 25, and his brother's like 2 for 4.
Yeah, maybe. Nah, I mean, if you go back and look, Tony's got a very specific directing style. You can almost kind of tell his movies. Like if you ever watched a movie in the 90s that used like dark camera tricks that were kind of smoky looking, it was a Tony Scott movie, like Days of Thunder. I think he did Crimson Tide, like Beverly Hills Cop 2. Trying to think of what else he did, but they're very specific, like looking films. But like a Denis Villeneuve and his who's the cinematographer on his stuff? Roger Deakins.
You can tell when they're together, you like Doom,
magic
Blade
happens.
Runner. Yeah, it's like it is a party for your eyes.
Well, we should just go ahead and segue right into our you need to see this movie of the week, the neo-noir science fiction classic Blade Runner 2049. So Blade Runner 2049, like I said, is a neo-noir science fiction film directed by Denis Villeneuve. It's written by Hampton Fancher and Michael Green. It stars Ryan Gosling, Harrison Ford, Ana de Armas, Sylvia Hoeks, Robin Wright, Mackenzie Davis, Dave Bautista, Edward James Olmos, and Jared Leto. What a cast, man. Just freaking crazy. It's obviously a sequel to the 1982 film Blade Runner, directed by Ridley Scott. And it won 2 Academy Awards, one for cinematography for Roger Deakins, and the other one for Best Visual Effects of the Year. So, Kyle, this is your movie. Take the lead, my friend, and tell us all about it.
Okay, well, one, it's obvious. I love this movie. And the thought of being able to talk about this on our pod is great, because when it first came out, I was like searching for nerd podcasts or videos to hear what other people's thoughts were. And I always recommend this movie to friends, and I would say a good majority of them are like, you have to be a certain kind of nerd to really love it. Because my friends that love it fucking love this movie, and if you don't love it, you're like, nah, it was boring. But I think truly, if you understand what you're watching, like if you know what you're getting into, I think a lot of people may go into this thinking this is like a big action, like sci-fi adventure, when really it's not. It's a detective neo-noir slow burn mystery set in cyberpunk future. And we follow Kay, Ryan Gosling's character. He is a Blade Runner, or what is essentially a replicant. In this world, a replicant is a robot or an android that are so advanced, they look human, they sound human, and the so much so that they have these Blade Runners. They're basically like cops whose job is like cops are like a private detective whose sole job is to hunt down like runaway,
like bounty hunters
replicants
that work for the cops, basically.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So like their job is to go run down any replicant that has gone bad, or run away, or is rebelled and isn't following what they are supposed to, because they were essentially built as slave labor. There's a lot of themes of like rights, and even though they're not human, should they have rights? And like you had said earlier, this movie does a really great job of making the first movie a lot better, or it enriches the first movie.
Totally.
I never really looked at the first movie as like this freaking amazing thing. It was kind of when I obviously I was younger, so like the first time I watched it, I was like, that was okay. Like I don't really get it. So, but huge cult following, right? But then when I saw this movie, it like immediately made me go back and watch the first one. And now like together as like a companion piece, I fucking love it. So, but we follow Kay, and in this movie, he goes in. Dave Bautista is the first. I'm not going to go through like the entire movie, but the beginning, it starts off with him going to basically track down and take in a replicant. That replicant is Sapper, played by Dave Bautista, who is only in this first opening scene, but he does such a great job and is so memorable with it that he like people love him as an actor because he did so good with this one thing. Obviously he was great in Guardians of the Galaxy too, but this was where he got his serious chops. But anyway, so Kay goes, he hunts down this big giant freaking replicant. They fight it out. He beats Sapper. And as he's leaving,
clearly science fiction.
Yeah, very science fiction. Big, tiny Ryan Gosling.
Reynolds beating the shit out of Dave Bautista. Yeah.
That opening like fight scene was like the sound, it was just like it was heavy, and like you felt like every punch, and Dave Bautista's like slamming him into the wall and literally
through the wall.
throws him through the wall. So I thought like they kicked the movie off with like oh shit.
Yeah.
And I think the opening scene where they're going out to Sapper's place, like you get to see a little bit of like Los Angeles. We're in the future, Los Angeles. And like this movie is just like gorgeous, like scene after scene. It visually stunning is the word I would use. They do a lot of practical effects in it. A lot of like actual, like it's not all green screen. It's all, you feel like you're there. And I think this may be why a lot of people think the movie's kind of slow or maybe boring, because a lot of their scenes, they hold on things for a lot longer. Like you never feel like Ryan Gosling is in a hurry. Like in every scene, it's very slow and very trying to find the answers.
I feel like this is a movie that you have to be able to embrace the art of the film.
Yeah.
This isn't I'm going to go watch a sci-fi action movie. This is very much like you have to be able to embrace the color and the setting and even the way that the emotions conveyed in scenes through characters. Yeah. It's because everybody talks slow and deliberate and everything. You know, you talked about like the visual style. Like there are shots in this movie where it's full scale giant room shots, even though that the scene might be focused on two people in the center of the room, because it's just trying to create that atmosphere for the scene. And this movie does an amazing job of taking you out of your living room or the movie theater and putting you in this world.
Yeah. And every setting that they go to is so different than the other. Like Sapper's place feels like this shitty little rundown house out in the middle of like agriculture world. And then you've got like the downtown police station feels like something out of Judge Dredd. And they talked about the first movie was really heavy with like rain, like it was just raining all the time. And this movie, they wanted it to feel more of like snow, like it's snowing in like a downtown kind of cyberpunk area. But the other big part of this movie that we've talked about this before, like the score is so important to a film, and in terms of like making it that much better. And for me, like we've talked multiple times, I'm a huge Hans Zimmer fan. And this is like a Hans Zimmer masterclass in like synth wave, like epicness. And
so it was Hans Zimmer and British composer Benjamin Wallfish did the music together.
The whole score, like you could oftentimes I'll put that on and just have it playing while I'm working. Like I think that's what hooked me when I first saw the movie. I saw this in theater. I was by myself. I was in Denver on a work trip. And I remember just being like enamored because that first synth sound of that classic Blade Runner, like that synth wave, just it hits. And I was like, okay, I'm fucking here. I'm into it. I'm into this movie. And it just got better from there. But essentially the movie is Kay as a replicant. They find when he takes Sapper down, he finds a box of bones that's hidden like 20 feet underground that's caught on a drone shot. And you find out later on these bones are of a replicant, but that the replicant had given birth. And that's not something that these droids or robots do. They don't give birth. They're robots. They're created and they perish. Retire is the word that they use. And so it's like this big bombshell of like, oh my gosh, this replicant had a kid. Like this changes everything in terms of like they are a people, and like it almost feels like this kid is like the Messiah. Like this will change the world if it gets out that there's a kid. So the police or the cops, they want to like find the child and snuff it out so that this doesn't get out. Kay as a replicant, he is the type of replicant that knows he's a replicant. He knows his job is just to do his job. He's not trying to get outside of that or try to go live a real life or be human. He's just doing his job. And so the movie really it does a great job of like putting little crumbs throughout that makes him question himself and question like who he is, like what he should be doing. He doesn't want things to change. He doesn't want this child to exist. And then like, obviously this movie came out years ago, so there's spoilers are allowed. Eventually he finds out that it might be him. And And they end up getting to a point where he truly thinks that he is this child, and it's like this revelation, just like epic moment where he's meeting this someone who creates dreams or memories to then put in replicants so that they feel like they're human. So like to make a replicant seem like they're more human, they give them memories so they can fit in. And so he meets with one of these memory makers and dream makers to give her one of his dreams or memories that he has thought was just programmed. And basically when she confirms that it isn't a fake dream or a memory created, it's real, it confirms to him that not only is he is the child that they're looking for, essentially. And it like sets in that this Messiah that he's chasing after, that he doesn't want to believe is a real thing, is actually him. He like, you see, he's super quiet. He's sitting there in this silent room, and then he just like lets out this like guttural scream and yell because he's like, "Fuck!" He doesn't say that word, but he's just like, "God!" And I don't know why, but that's one of my favorite movie scenes ever because Ryan Gosling just does a great job of making you feel it. And they don't explain any of this in the movie. Like they just do a great job of conveying all of this. And so essentially he thinks he is the replicant, and to end up trying to figure out like how and what to do next, or why this happened.
You got like three different groups looking for the replicant,
yes,
the child. Right?
Let's let you jump in a little bit.
It's your movie, man.
I want you to share how you saw it.
Well,
perfect time. Tell me a little bit.
I will say this before we get to the review part. I did like this a lot better the second time. I will say that. So I'm glad. I'm sure you're glad to hear that. But there's like three groups looking for the child. Basically, there's the police that are like, we need to find this child. We need to eliminate it, so that it doesn't cause this pandemonium in the city, in the streets, in the world. And then there's was it Wallace Corporation, right? The company that makes the replicants, which is basically run by Jared Leto, right? And he is like obsessed with creating perfection in the replicants, right? And when he learns that there's a replicant child, he is now like, I have to find this child and basically like dissect it to figure out how this was possible, that this happened, right? And then the third group, there's like a resistance, basically, like an underground like resistance to, we need to find it and bring this to the world and bring change. Right. So and
free us replicants.
Right.
I'm glad you jumped in.
No.
That is,
but it's very
crucial.
It's very political. Right. And it's it brings a lot of questions about morality. Yeah. And, because like, I mean, you think about replicants are basically, they're basically robots, right? What's the short story that the original Blade Runner's based on? Do robots dream of electric sleep or something like that?
Do robots dream of
androids?
Electric
Do androids
sheep?
dream of electric sheep? That's what it's called. So it's this morality question. Like, are they because they're not human though, but are they living things? Because now they eat, they sleep, they think, they feel, and now they reproduce, right? So then that adds another layer to, they are now they're basically, now they're a living organism, because now they're procreating, and so there's a lot of that, and I think that's important to the story and kind of the motivation behind it, right?
I'm
go ahead. And
I jumped to like step 7 and you gave us step 1 that we needed, of like, that is essentially the overarching of the purpose behind it. And with the replicants, they were created as slave labor. They were made specifically to be used to help humanity and work. And, but yeah, so basically, Kay ends up trying to find Harrison Ford's character, Deckard, who was from the first movie. He was the main character in the first movie. He was the detective or the Blade Runner. That they leave it very ambiguous. They leave it up to the watcher if he is a replicant or if he's human. But the Bones, the replicant who had the baby, is the main love interest from the first movie.
Sean Young's character.
Yeah, Sean
Rachel.
Young.
Sean Young's character, Rachel.
And so
who worked for the Tyrell Corporation in the first one.
Yes.
Which is what turns into Wallace, right? It's a whole lot of backstory there.
Yeah. So that's, we stopped the movie halfway through because we had to talk through it because there's a lot of things that have happened since the first movie that set this one up. Like you said, the first movie, Tyrell is the big, like, multi-gajillion-dollar company that creates replicants. Actually, the head, Tyrell, is the head of the company, ends up getting killed at the end of the movie. But that company has created replicants. One of the replicants in the first movie, the main bad guy, turns on him and basically kills him. And then Wallace is another multi-gajillion-dollar company with obviously Jared Leto as the lead of that. Yep. His company took over the Tyrell Corporation and continued it. So it's essentially the same thing, just a different name, different leader, which happens when there's a change of leadership. But there also was this movie, between the two movies, there was from the rebellion that you mentioned, the Replicant Rebellion, they caused a worldwide blackout that basically shut off all electronics. They lost all of their data and info. And so the world, has recouped from this major blackout that happened. And so that plays a role in the movie a little bit when Ryan Gosling is trying to find information. It's hard to find info on what they're looking for because the blackout basically had a lot of things that got lost. So, but Deckard and Rachel are the ones who had this baby, the child, the replicant child. And so, Ryan Gosling now thinks that he is the child and he wants answers. As all of these different groups are starting to close in on him, he ends up going and finding Deckard in Las Vegas, which is one of the coolest set pieces in the whole movie. It's totally different from LA. There, at some point, there had been an atomic bomb that went off. So all of Las Vegas is orange and foggy and dusty and smoky. Yeah,
it's kind of like it's covered in ash.
Yeah, it's just it looks so cool. This is where they built their largest practical set pieces, massive statues, and it just looks cool. But he eventually finds Deckard, who's been living in Las Vegas by himself in a casino with a dog. And there's a super cool fight scene that they have. Deckard is in hiding. Basically, when they found out they were going to have a kid, he left so that it wouldn't cause problems, and he knew that they would come after him. Yeah, they were out of milk, and he left and never came back.
Son of a bitch.
Went and found 5,000 bottles of whiskey in Las Vegas. So they show him drinking a lot in the movie, he's in hiding. So when Kay or Gosling shows up, he thinks that this is just a Blade Runner coming to take him out. And so they have a little bit of a fight scene. And for me, it's again one of the cooler scenes in the movie because they're fighting in this old rundown casino in post-apocalyptic kind of city. And they end up in one of the showrooms, and there's like a 3D
Hologram.
like hologram Elvis show, like a typical Las Vegas show with showgirls that is, it's clearly like distorted and like glitching, and
Yeah.
they're fighting throughout this ballroom
Yeah, it's
as
pretty
this
cool.
like Elvis hologram show keeps like clipping on, and it's super loud, and girls are dancing and he's singing, and they're trying to hide and fight each other and shoot each other while they're hiding behind tables, and then it'll turn off and it'll be like quiet as hell, and then it goes back. So it's just like a really cool kind of fight scene. It's very original. Anyways, but he gets connected with Deckard. We then get Harrison Ford added to the movie, which is not till way towards the end. They end up finding out that Kay, or Ryan Gosling, is actually not the child, but through this journey, he basically finds his own kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, he grows in his own way, that he understands the importance of not just being slave labor. And
he finds his purpose.
They're perfect.
Yeah. And what he needs to do. Yeah.
And in the beginning, he has basically, there's a Joy is this like program girlfriend or program like hologram wife that you can purchase, and like he has this hologram girlfriend that he has a relationship with. Like, he comes home from work and she's there, and it's what's the name of the actress that plays her?
Ana de Armas.
Ana de Armas. She does a great job. They've got chemistry. Seems like a normal like couple together, but she is literally like a hologram in a computer program. And eventually he moves her from the console in his room to like a portable like Wi-Fi stick. So she's then with him throughout most of the movie, and they have a relationship. And there's a lot of ways of seeing their relationship as like not real. You're constantly being reminded that, you know, replicants aren't human. They're not real. They don't have emotions. While he has this girlfriend who is also a robot or machine, that they have a relationship that they grow throughout the movie. Eventually that Wi-Fi stick gets broken by the bad guy. And his girlfriend essentially is lost at that moment. And so at that point, I think he had kind of, it's almost like he found his humanity.
Yes.
But anyways, he ends up finding out he's not the child. Turns out the dream maker, memory maker I mentioned earlier, was actually the child. And it doesn't go anywhere other than you kind of figure that out. Ryan Gosling and Deckard take out the main bad guy at the end. And he got injured when he had found Deckard, and the bad guys come and they take Deckard. Ryan Gosling gets hurt to where he's basically bleeding out and going to die. He goes and saves Deckard for one final battle, and then basically dies, which sounds really sad. And I didn't do a good job.
It's a little ambiguous. You never see him die, but he's basically laying there dying.
Yes, he goes back to the dream maker girl, like the building that she's in. He doesn't go in. He just he drops off Deckard because Deckard is her father.
Yeah,
and Deckard has never met her,
right.
So he goes to save Deckard, to bring Deckard to reunite him with his daughter or the child, and goes back, kills the bad guy, saves Deckard, and then as he lets Deckard go in to meet her, he just sits back. It's like another super cool scene. Ryan Gosling is, from the beginning of the movie to now, he's gotten beat up a million times. He's got cuts and scars. He's bleeding everywhere. He's just like, after we've gone on this long journey with him, he sits on the stairs as it's snowing and just lays back. And ambiguous if he dies or not. I look at it that he does. But I think they left it ambiguous because the first movie did something like that.
Yep.
And also potentially for a sequel. So, anyways, I freaking love this movie. I could talk about it for a million years. It's beautiful. It sounds amazing. The score is great. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. It's not a giant action movie. Look at it like a badass detective mystery. And though I've ruined the major spoilers for it, you have to go watch it. It is such a fucking good movie. And Denis Villeneuve, it's a masterpiece from him. And if you like the Dune movies, or at least the first one, I hear the second one's pretty good. Um, maybe just knowing how good those are, once you see that, it might help you appreciate this movie a little bit more. But what do you think? What would you give your ranking of it?
So, a couple thoughts on this movie.
Yeah.
This is very much like a companion piece to the first one. Like they are,
For sure.
You have to. I mean, the first one sets up the second one,
Yeah.
and the second one makes the first one so much better, which we've talked about. This is not a. This movie had a $200 million budget. It was a bomb. It bombed. And again, and a lot of people were like, why did this bomb? Because it's critically acclaimed, it's stunning, all these things. This is not a movie for the casual moviegoer at all. This is a very specific movie for people that love things about cinema like you do, right?
Yeah.
Visuals, music, set pieces, emotion, how it's conveyed. This isn't, you can't go into this and expect John Wick.
Yeah.
Okay. This is like, there's so much that you have to take in, and the way Denny does his directing, it's all very intentional. I mean, this is, and if you watch the first Dune, I think the first Dune does that a lot too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a way, it's his style. It's what he does. I'm a firm believer that this movie, which is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, could be 2 hours and 20 minutes. I do. I feel like he's got to learn how to edit more stuff out, because you hold on to things for just too long. There's way too much, like, it's almost like where you see somebody go to a place and then they're inside, right? Like whereas in a movie like this, it's like, well, we're going to see him travel there. We're going to see him get out of the car. We're going to see him walk slowly through the parking lot, up the stairs.
Yep.
I mean, there's literal scenes where that happens, and I get what he's trying to do. It's very much build up. Like, you have to understand the world they're in and things like that. I understand it, but I do think it's too much. And is it slow? Yeah. Is it boring? I think slow and boring are two different things. Is it slow? Yes. Is it boring? Yeah. No. The first time I watched this movie, I probably would have rated this a 7 the first time I watched it, based on the way I felt about it, because I thought it was slow and I thought it was boring. This time, and I was glad we were talking through it this time, because I had already knew what was coming and I understood the movie, but we had more dialogue. It was something more to soak in. It's an 8.5, I think. I think it's a very, very highly rated movie. I think it is visually, it is one of the best looking movies I've ever seen. Cinematography, visual effects, obviously it won Academy Awards, music. Yeah. I just feel like they're a lot. I think you take half an hour out of this movie, I think it's a better movie. Yeah, I really do. I feel like it would convey better mainstream if you did.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think. Yeah, it's interesting how much. I mean, obviously, it takes that much money to make something at this scale.
It looks like this, yes, absolutely.
But like what you had said is like it's for a very small audience that are going to appreciate it or actually really like this. Which is exactly the same people that liked the first one.
Yeah.
A very small niche audience. But like that small niche audience, this is mind blowing. So it's interesting that we essentially get that same thing with this. Because I felt like there was a lot of fan service, but in a way to enrich the old movie and make it even better with this.
Absolutely.
But again, it was box office, major budget. Like this was a big epic. So, which I still look at it as that. But
sure,
again, like this is exactly my kind of nerddom. So I'm glad that we watched it together.
Oh, me
Because
too.
when I first had said this was one of the movies that way before we had a podcast where I was like, oh, you have to watch this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I distinctly remember you like not being in, you were like, it was boring. You're like, it was okay or whatever it was. And I just, it hurt me.
I wasn't
Hurt
mean
my
about it. I
heart.
wasn't like, oh, it was a piece of
No,
dog
I
shit. It
know
was.
you sugar coated it so you didn't want to hurt
Mm-hmm.
my feelings, which is fine. That's part of the game. But I'm glad that in my head, I was like, oh, he wasn't paying attention. Like, oh, he's got us. He must not have been watching or something. And so I'm glad we watched. And it sounds like you enjoyed it a little bit more. But there's a lot of context that goes with the movie, and without any of it, it makes it a lot probably.
I feel like I would watch this again now.
Yeah.
Like I wanna watch it a third time. I kind of want to watch both of them back to back. Honestly,
So that, like I said, after I saw it in theaters, that was like the first thing I did was like, oh, I need to go watch this first one again. And now I will watch that first movie now way more often because I have now seen this. And there's just a lot of lore to the world of Blade Runner. That is just interesting to me. So, anyways, obviously, I love this movie.
right.
This is a golden 11 for me. I don't have many of those, but like, if
So far, you
someone
have
were
two.
to, yes, if someone were to say, what are your like top 5 favorite movies of all time, like this would be on that list. I love this fucking movie. I wish that they would make another one with Ryan Gosling because this is, in my opinion, his best film that nobody looks at like that because it's way different than his other stuff. And he doesn't really talk much in it, but he acts his ass off in it. And the way that conveys the emotions that we need. So I don't know. There's a lot of internal dialogue going on, or emotion that you got to read the room. And if you can read it, it's a fucking good book. So, Golden 11, go see it if you haven't. They're coming out with a TV show, a TV series.
Yeah.
So like they just started filming for that the other day. I think I sent you like a clip or something about it. So I'm pumped about that. It is going to be a part of the Denis Villeneuve's world. And there's also a video game that's coming out too. So like Blade Runner content, give me it. I freaking love that cyberpunk world. I'm all for it.
And it's a Prime. I think it's a Amazon Prime Video series, nice. Blade Runner 2099. So obviously it'll take place in the distant future. It makes you wonder with the events that happen in this movie that what's happened in that world, right? Yeah, since so
are replicants having babies, so they have their own world now,
right? Yeah. So that's our thoughts and review on the 2017 neo-noir science fiction masterpiece, Golden 11, Blade Runner 2049. And that takes us into my favorite segment.
Only 5.
So I wanted to jump on what we did last week, because last week, obviously, with the Madam Web episode, sorry, we did the worst spin-off movies of all time, and we got the opportunity to slam some movies. So I wanted to do the opposite, and I wanted to do the best 5 best spin-off movies of all time. Okay, so we had some discussion before we started recording on what's a spinoff and what's not. Yeah. And so, I went ahead and I think I have one in here that I really question whether it's a spinoff or not, or if it's just a prequel. Shit, I don't know.
I think prequels count as spinoffs. I
don't know.
For
anyway,
me, yeah.
It's on my list. So I did have 2 honorable mentions that I wanted to talk about, and I paired them together for obvious reasons. They are 2 completely different ends of the spectrum on style of movie, but they are technically in the same universe. So I wanted to honorable mention Todd Phillips' Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. It's clearly a spinoff in its own contained universe. It's a movie I've watched once. I don't know if I'll ever watch it again. It's a tough watch. It's a tough film to watch. Obviously, Joaquin Phoenix won an Oscar. He was fantastic in that role. It was difficult, but amazing at the same time. And then honorable mention is Lego Batman. That's the other one. Because it was, it's a spinoff of both the Lego movie and, kind of like its own contained Batman thing. So, which is hilarious. Will Arnett's Batman, Zach Galifianakis is the Joker in that. And then you get all these cameos from all these other characters. You got Superman, Green Lantern, Flash, you got the DC, and then you got like Voldemort's in it, and you got Gremlins and the Eye of Sauron. And it's funny. If you've never seen Lego Batman, you really should. It's a pretty entertaining movie, especially if you've got kids.
Yeah.
All right. So my list. So number 5, I have Prey. The Predator prequel spinoff? Question mark?
Yeah.
I don't know. Prey was a direct to Hulu streaming movie. I think it came out last year or 2022. Mm-hmm. It's probably 2022. But it basically takes place in America, Native Americans, and it's like this. It's a predator movie, but the predator is more feral. It's like a feral predator. And it's like killing all these Native Americans. And there's this one like heroine and she's awesome in the movie. If you haven't seen Prey, it's great. And I would highly, highly, highly recommend it. So I have that at number 5. At number 4, I had Creed. The Adonis Creed, the first one. I had the first one on there with Michael B. Jordan and Sylvester Stallone. Obviously spins off the Rocky franchise. I think the first one's a great movie. It's better than a lot of the Rocky movies, I'm going to say. I don't want to say most, but I'm going to say a lot. It's better than a lot of the Rocky movies, which is surprising. When it came out, it was like, oh, this is going to suck, but it's really good, and it's probably the best Stallone has been in years, and very enjoyable. I didn't care for the second one a lot. I liked the third one, though, but anyway, the first one's all-timer.
Second one's with Drago, right?
Yeah, I didn't like that one as much. I don't know if I just didn't like the way it flowed. I don't think it just felt like
I like the second one just because I fucking love Rocky IV. It's my favorite Rocky.
A lot of people I think like the second Creed because of that.
Yeah.
And number 3, I had Logan. The last kind of Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, off into the sunset, or so we thought movie.
Yeah. What a movie.
What a movie. James Mangold directed like R-rated Wolverine for the first time. It's very emotional. He has a clone that's a female. It's basically it's his daughter, and you kind of find out that he killed all the other X-Men, and it's kind of has this very dark, and
it's
Patrick Stewart's in it as Professor X, and he's got, he's getting old and he's having problems, and there's a lot to that movie, and it's very emotional, but what a movie for a comic book movie. It is something else.
Yeah.
And number 2, I had the original Deadpool.
Oh.
I had the first Deadpool. I wasn't going to consider it a spinoff because I felt like it was just another Marvel movie with a new character. But then I was reading something. It was like, well, technically it's a spinoff because it's a spinoff of X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah.
Because we did have Ryan Reynolds Deadpool in that movie, sort of. But this is something like the first Deadpool is low budget, right? We've talked about that. It's small scale. They even make jokes about how Colossus was the only X-Men they could get in the movie because they couldn't afford the other X-Men, and things like that. And I think that's why I like the first one better than the second one, is because it's smaller scale, but it's hilarious. It's super violent. Ryan Reynolds was meant to play Deadpool. Yeah. Like more than maybe he's meant to play Deadpool like Robert Downey Jr. is meant to play Iron Man. Like it's he's just perfect for the role. It's such a great movie. It's highly entertaining. and it's very adult, which is fun.
Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine.
I saw this thing the other day, and whether you brought that up, but it was, it was like, and people have been saying this for 20 fucking years. Hugh Jackman's great in that role as it was written, but he is nothing like Wolverine is from the comic books, right? Yeah. And they're right, but at the same time, it's like, dude, it's been 23 years.
Like, he is Wolverine.
At this point, he's fucking Wolverine, right? Like you can say, like, we've had all these people play this character and all these people played this, Batman, Superman. Yeah. There's only been one Wolverine ever. Yeah. It's him. And that's it, Yeah. Anyway, that number 2. And then at number 1, it was a hard time. Was this a spinoff or not? But I counted it as one. At number 1, I have Rogue One as my number 1 spinoff movie.
Star Wars.
I had to, and it's so good. I mean, like when we ranked Star Wars, it's the original trilogy, and then it's Rogue One. Like,
dude.
Yeah. And I put Rogue One above Jedi. I told you that. Like, I think Rogue One's better than Jedi. It's obviously not better than Empire, and it's not better than A New Hope, but it's close. It's up in that stratosphere. It's such a great movie. It's one of those things that, like, the original 2 Star Wars, like New Hope and Empire Strikes Back, are so great. Yeah. And this bridges that. This is like that leading right into A New Hope and what started everything. And you've got this awesome cast of characters, and you've got this awesome story about, like, why the Death Star was built with a flaw in it so that they could do something about it. You have the single best scene with Darth Vader ever put on film.
Oh my God. Best fucking Darth Vader movie
awesome.
Ever.
Right.
That fucking lightsaber turns on. Holy shit.
You're like,
freaking
no way.
Launches that dude into the fucking ceiling. Like,
it's almost like they made the scene you've been waiting for 30 some years. Like,
since Darth Vader was in a movie, this is what we wanted.
And you know how powerful he is, and you're like, you've been waiting for him to just lay havoc.
Yes. Which there's a video game, The Force Unleashed, where, like, it's a game about where Darth Vader's, like, secret apprentice. But the demo and the very first, like, 5 minutes of the game, you actually play as Darth Vader. And it's like the first time ever where you get to do that, where, like, you have Darth Vader, the power, and you're fucking launching dudes everywhere. You're just destroying things with the Force. So to finally see it, like, in theater on the big screen was fucking awesome. It's kind of like the same moment I would compare to when Attack of the Clones in the theater, when Yoda. Fucking, when his lightsaber, like, forced over into his hand and then he started flipping everywhere.
Oh yeah, he fakes you out. He's got the cane and he's all hobbling in. Oh yeah.
You're like, man. Oh, Yoda, you're not going to save anyone, bro. And then he turns into, like, Darth Maul on freaking speed and crack and PCP. And that moment, I think a lot of people didn't like that. But for me, I knew Yoda as this little old broken, little tiny broken man. And then when he turned into, like, the most badass Jedi ever.
Parkour.
So, yeah. Yeah. So I like, in terms of comparison, that was kind of the same moment where that fucking red lightsaber turns on. You're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
It's going down. Run! Yeah. Run! He's going to get you. So, love that. Love your list. I do love that list.
You got a couple that match?
This is actually going to be fantastically hilarious.
Right.
My list of best spinoffs ever. Like you said, when I was going through this list, it was kind of hard because I was like, is that really a spinoff, or is that just a sequel? Like, or that's like a main character. Like, for me, I had Lego Batman as an honorable mention.
Nice.
and I had it as honorable mention because I'm like, it's Batman. Like, he's not a spin-off character, but I guess technically he's a
Lego
spin-off from the
movie
Lego
spinoff,
movie.
right?
Yes. So that I also had the Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse movies, both of them listed as spin-offs because I feel like those are spin-off characters from Peter Parker Spider-Man. So
That's fair.
But I didn't want to put them on my list. I just wanted to mention them. So, and then one last honorable mention: the movie Soldier, which is a spinoff slash was supposed to be a sequel to Blade Runner. Freaking Soldier. I'm not going to go into details. I've talked about it on a different episode. All right, my list that is so different than yours. Number 5, and people talk so much shit about this movie, but I fucking loved it. The Scorpion King with The Rock. I don't know why, but I thought that movie was fucking awesome. This was peak Rock. He was a badass. He was way different than his character was in the Mummy Returns. But I don't know why. I love this movie. I had an action figure of him. I thought it was fucking cool. And I think the movie actually did well, or at least there were a lot of people that enjoyed it that didn't look too much at it as like this is supposed to be an epic. It was just a cool Rock movie. We got to see what the Mummy...
It was like his first kind of...
it was his first feature film where he was the lead.
Yeah, Mummy Returns was his first movie.
Yeah,
and then he got to do this. Yeah,
Matthias, I think, is his name in that movie. But fuck, I don't know why I fucking love the Scorpion King, but god damn it, I do. All right, number 4, I have Creed 1 because everything you said, it was the best thing in the Rocky franchise that we've received since Rocky 4. Like, again, we've talked multiple times. I've lost my father, so I'm like all about the movies that talk about loss and what it's like to deal with legacy and trying to live up to that, and like trying to be your own person, but also you don't want to shit on your dad's legacy because they were a good man. Like, like the movie encapsulates all of that in such a great way. And Michael B. Jordan is fucking amazing. He is a badass. They do, Creed just does a great job of it. Doesn't feel like it's trying to be Rocky. It's, it's more, it kind of like Black Panther. It's about the culture, and it's such a good movie, but also still has that feel of Rocky. We get Rocky in it, like the perfect amount of him as like the Mick role. Like he's like, he's his Mick, he's his corner man. And they just do a good job of like the legacy of his dad who's passed and stuff. So anyways, fucking Creed 1, badass movie. I like the second one. First one was good. Much better than the second, but I haven't seen the third one yet. So, and then my number 3, Deadpool. I had Deadpool as my number 3 spinoff because the first one, like you said, is awesome. I like the smaller scale. I like the first one specifically because it was like they didn't Marvelize it yet or Marvel you it yet. They didn't turn it into this big giant thing where they were trying to throw a ton of money at it and turn it into this big movie. It was small. It was like it was a love letter to Deadpool fans and the fans that want that rated R Marvel movie, and we got it. So that was my number 3. My number 2, Logan. Another great spinoff, like you said. Logan, awesome movie. Logan is just, it's badass. There's a ton of emotion. There's anger. There's just like Logan and Hugh Jackman do together. They are perfect for that role.
Right.
I liked that they went with the rated R route with it.
Absolutely.
It was like, I like that they didn't go the complete zaniness of the actual comic of Old Man Logan, but they
No way.
captured a lot. Yeah, like you can't be
No way.
driving monster trucks and have T-Rexes running around.
Inbred fucking Hulks and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
That was
But
a
they
lot.
captured a lot of the stuff from Old Man Logan that was cool, and they were able to do that using the character from all the other X-Men movies. So there was backstory to it, which, like Batman v Superman, we didn't have any of the backstory. So none of this end of the career stuff, we didn't have any stake in it. In this movie, we had all 20 years of movies. And so we felt like we were all old with Logan and Hugh Jackman at the end of the road. Like, all right, we've been everywhere. This is how it ends. This is sad, but glad to see you got one last rated R hoorah. Who would have thought we were getting the Deadpool movie?
Right.
And then my number one spinoff movie of all time, Star Wars Rogue One.
Yeah.
Number one. Everything you said, it's an amazing movie. I do think that end Darth Vader scene jumps that movie up like 6 levels. I think without that at the end, might not be looked at as such a great movie, but it was the perfect cap to a really good story that it didn't really retcon stuff from the original, but it gave us answers for the original movie that makes a lot of stuff make more sense. So
one of the other things I really like about that movie too that I didn't talk about was like you got a one single standalone movie that had better character development and better characters than the entire sequel trilogy did.
Yes. Yeah.
You cared about all of them. Yep. And it's kind of heavy too when they all realize what's going to happen at the end, like we've succeeded in the mission. Now somebody else has to go fulfill it.
Yeah.
But we've done what we came to do and now we're going to die.
Yeah. Even when they announced that movie, like the concept of like they're doing a Star Wars movie that's not about Jedi or anything. It's about the ragtag group that goes and steals those plans for the Death Star that were so important at the beginning of the first movie. I was like, that sounds fucking awesome. And then they did a great job with it. So,
and they created, like I said, great characters. I mean, like you got Jyn Erso in one movie. Yeah. She's an awesome heroine. I mean, like I didn't mind. I thought Daisy Ridley was probably one of my favorite parts about the sequel trilogy, but I'd argue we had a better lead heroine character in Rogue One than we did in the sequel trilogy. Like I bought it more. You know what I mean? Like I don't. Yeah. It's such a good movie.
Yeah, and you felt like they weren't heroes trying to be heroes. They were like bad guys who didn't care about anyone else, that just had to come together for a bigger cause. And they fucking knocked it out of the park. And they captured the vibe from the original trilogy. Like the feel, the look of that time frame of Star Wars when all of the other trilogies were at different time frames. So like there's like, I don't know, different clone troopers compared to stormtroopers and those types of things. So anyways, love that. We had almost the exact same list. We had 4 out of 5.
Our top 4s were the same with with 2 and 3 moved around. Right.
Yeah. I think Scorpion King was probably one that you missed. Next time you'll have to get that on your.
I got Prey. I feel pretty good with my Prey decision.
Actually, I forgot. Yeah. So Prey, that was one that I did look at. And I did think like that movie was fucking awesome. I'm going to put it on it. And then for whatever reason, when I was looking at it, I was like, I feel like that's not a spinoff. That just is like a sequel.
It's like a prequel. In my head, it's like a prequel. It's like a prequel to all the other ones, right? Again, but
totally is a spinoff.
But you could say Rogue One's the same thing, technically.
Exactly.
But,
yeah, my logic doesn't really hold up compared to the other movies I picked.
Well,
but in my head, I was
when
like,
we make our list. When we make our list, we make our own rules. So whatever.
Yeah, it's true. I think when I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's like Predator 4. Like, was my mindset. So, okay. My top 5 list, or there can only be 5. I need to grab the exact wordings that I sent to you. We are doing time out. Top 5 cyberpunk slash futuristic dystopian settings movies. So think Blade Runner, like top 5 cyberpunk settings. Like there are so many movies out there that try to do this, that this list was actually hard to make. I've switched it up a lot. Got a couple honorable mentions.
I kind of focused mine more specifically on like dystopian future. It's kind of how I was like,
nice. Okay.
Dystopian future is what I went with. So
we might be way off. We might be close. I would bet we have one or two on here.
We have a couple.
Okay. Honorable mention, which I originally had this listed at number 4, and then I found 2 other movies that I was like, oh, I can't not have those on the list. So I moved it to my honorable mention, Demolition Man. We've talked about this movie. It's a Sylvester Stallone movie. It's in the future. There's some cool, funny things about it. Taco Bell owns everything. Nice restaurants are Taco Bell. Fancy cars that drive themselves. 3 seashells in the bathroom. All that stuff. Honorable mention. Number 5. And I think this movie does not get credit that it deserves, but it is a badass movie. Minority Report with Tom Cruise. It's set like way in the future. He's a cop that literally goes and arrests people for for murders that are not committed yet, or crimes that have not been committed yet. Like it's that far in the future. Cars that drive themselves. He has like his eyes are surgically switched out with like robot eyes. So, actually, I think it's just implants from somebody else. But like, it's a cool futuristic movie.
Yeah,
does a good job of like combining kind of normal settings with the future. And there's a lot of ads everywhere, like 3D ads and stuff, flying cars. It's cool. Minority Report, number 5. Number 4, the original Total Recall. This Arnold Schwarzenegger movie is so good. I know they made a new one with Colin Farrell. That's probably okay. It's been a while since I've seen it, but that original Total Recall was so freaking good with Quaid as the main character. Arnold's is technically on Mars. It's just very futuristic. Like the 80s just like did a good job with their futuristic vibes. So 80s, 90s, I can't remember when the movie came out. But
I think that was like 89 or 90. It was like right at
right on the border.
Yeah.
That was my number 4. And then number 3, a movie that we have talked about on multiple episodes, Dredd, from the Judge Dredd world. So this is Carl Urban's Dredd. I actually would kind of put slash Judge Dredd with Sly, because I think
I'd say that's fair.
Good.
Yeah.
I think both those get to go together, like the world of Judge Dredd and the 2 movies that we got. They're very futuristic mega blocks.
I have a couple that I kind of did like this movie slash this movie. Yeah, because they're in the same. Yep. It's the same thing. So
okay, love that. Because the old movie did a lot of good things with making you feel like you were in the future. And then the new one did a good job of feeling like that, but also giving you kind of the grimy side of like the mega city and the mega blocks. So Dredd did a great job. Number 2, top 5 futuristic dystopian setting, Fifth Element. Fifth Element actually, I think, took kind of like the setting of like the original Blade Runner and like ran with it. It's just such a cool kind of futuristic vibe. There's flying cars. Like they did a cool job of creating like a normal downtown city if that had floating cars with like, cops and taxis and like food trucks that are like food boats that are floating around at different levels. And like I said, it catches kind of the Blade Runner vibe, but Fifth Element's fucking awesome. It's hilarious. Bruce Willis is a badass. Just what a multi-pass. Corbin Dallas. It's okay. And then my number 1, obviously, after what we've talked about. It's the reason why we did this episode. It's the reason why I created this list. Blade Runner 2049 and / Blade Runner 1.
Mm-hmm.
They set the bar, they set the tone. They created what is this cyberpunk futuristic stuff on TV. It's beautiful in this new movie. If you go back and watch the old one, they do a lot of cool practical effects. They give you a vibe of this grimy futuristic town.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Blade Runner 2049. Those are my number one futuristic worlds.
Nice.
You got?
Okay, so mine is different because mine's a little bit more dystopian and a little less
Give it to me.
Like skyscrapers and flying cars and stuff. I have less of that. Anyway.
That's okay.
I had an honorable mention. I just wanted to throw this one in there. I had WALL-E as an honorable mention.
Oh, nice.
I feel like the way, I know it's a Disney movie, but like you have this, like the Earth's dead. Nobody's on it. There's this, and like basically the future all live on these like cruise ships and everything. They do everything for them. Everybody's like in electric wheelchairs. Nobody can walk. Like it's for a Disney movie. It's pretty crazy that they have
cool.
That. It is. It's a great, man. There's like no dialogue in the movie for like the first 45 minutes. It's a pretty cool movie. If you've never seen it, I think it's pretty awesome.
I think seeing that in theaters was like a great experience. Like I remember sitting in that and being like, this is like a cool idea that they've done.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. And then at number 5, I had Total Recall. Yeah, I love the original Total Recall. I think it's great. It's got that very like 80s Paul Verhoeven like feel to, like RoboCop. Like it's very it's a very specific type of movie. You could tell it was a Paul Verhoeven movie. Arnold was awesome in it.
That was that was the movie that I left off my list.
Want to talk about RoboCop?
Yeah, fuck.
But yeah, so total, for all the things you said, Total Recall. The way it's like the way they designed Earth and all the things Earth it has, and that's a Philip K. Dick short story too, just like Blade Runner. Yeah, loosely based on a Philip K. Dick. What's that called? We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, I think is what the short story was called.
What such weird names for these.
I know. But yeah, and then the way that Mars is completely different, and it's it's dirty, it's grimy, and it's everybody's got like mutations and stuff. It's a cool movie. At number 4, I had Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. So for all the things you said, visually awesome. Los Angeles looks cool. The Vegas scene is amazing. The settings, the atmosphere, the way they portray it at night, and then the rain and all of it. It's pretty amazing. At number 3, I had Children of Men. Have you ever seen Children of Men with Clive Owen?
Yeah. Yes, I have.
So it's got this kind of like a virus has ravaged much of the world. Nobody can have children anymore. And so there's this like, obviously the world's a very dark place, and there's this like, there's no hope for humanity because humanity can't procreate anymore. And, everybody kind of is accepted, the world's going to die. Yeah. And then there's this, but a woman gets pregnant, and they kind of give this, like, she's carrying it's the second coming of, Messiah kind of thing, because nobody's had children in forever. Yeah. And now she's pregnant and she's carrying a child and all that. And it's a cool setting. It's a cool story. It's very emotional if you've never seen the movie, but the way it portrays the future, I think is pretty amazing. Nice. At number 2, I actually had The Matrix at number 2. Obviously the real world is it's run by machines. It's post-apocalyptic. There's no sunlight. Humans are they're all batteries. Like it's a very interesting world they created. And then obviously everything's it's all inside the Matrix. It's all a computer program. Everybody lives inside this computer program. the setting and the story of the movie, I think, is pretty awesome. The original Matrix is obviously a masterpiece, and the sequels have done nothing but diminish the legacy. But it's because that first one is such an amazing movie.
It's such a cool, like, fascinating, like the difference between the real world and the Matrix. And in the Matrix, they can have any gun they want. They've got these crazy outfits. They can fucking jump across buildings, but the real world is like they are living underground with like rags and can barely go anywhere without getting murdered by giant robot things. So I think that movie does a great job of giving you like a totally different vibe. Anyways.
Yeah, absolutely. And then my number one, and this is totally dystopian, and it's very post-apocalyptic, and you really don't ever get the sense of what cities are like anymore because everything's kind of like in a wasteland kind of deal. But I did Mad Max Fury Road as number one. Like nice. The reason I had that on there, and again, I told you I was focusing more on dystopian, is the whole like war machine kind of like atmosphere they set up, and these towns are basically like they're like giant caves and like mountains carved out, and they've built cities in them, and I just like the whole atmosphere of that. I think it's an incredible world that has just obviously when Fury Road came out, it got better, from Road Warrior, Beyond Thunderdome, and I know that's a little different than kind of how you did your list, but I wanted to like Mad Max and that world. I think was something. I think when it comes to dystopian, I think it's pretty
adds up, futuristic, like and again, like you said, those are, I fucking love the Mad Max movies. The settings are so cool, and they just took it to another level with the newer movie. I'm so pumped for the Furiosa one to see what they do with it.
It's one of those franchises that, like, people talk anymore, and it's, why are there no new original ideas? Like everybody's making these sequels or requels or, whatever they are anymore. And it's like, but we're getting movies like Blade Runner 2049 and Mad Max Fury Road. And like, we're getting these movies that have made franchises better because they made sequels to them.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they made sequels after 30 years because I'd rather them not reboot it and just add to the story. You know what I mean? Like, the way they've handled those two franchises is great. I mean, like, would you rather see him make Beetlejuice 2 or just remake the thing? I'd rather see him do a sequel, and because you can continue on from there. I think it's cool. We talked about Creed, and like, they're not going to remake Rocky. We could just started a new franchise with a spin-off character. Like, I think that's cool. And I'm glad that, studios are making smart decisions with things like that and not just churning out spin-offs about villains nobody gives a shit about,
not giving us some fucking Morbius movie or Madam Web movie. God.
It's fucking dog shit.
That's so funny that you say that, but also is so accurate. So, nice. I like your list. I like both of these lists were fun.
Yeah, yours is good too.
Movies to talk about.
Yeah. Total Recall, man. Now I want to go like watch it.
I know. I was thinking that same thing. Every time we have these episodes, there is usually one or two movies that I'm like, oh, I need to go rewatch that. And oftentimes I will. So nice.
Right. Well, that kind of wraps it up. That takes us to the end of episode 38 of the Movie Dads podcast. Blade Runner 2049. See it if you haven't seen it. You probably should watch the first one too, just FYI. And definitely do it. If you're watching this on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Click that bell so you can get alerts when new episodes come out. Give us a comment, leave us a comment, tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Podcast Index. You can see some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Damn it.
I got you.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, we are back next week with episode 39, big premiere movie of the week. Tickets in hand, popcorn buckets and pants.
Butthole popcorn buckets.
It's not a butthole, man. It's not a butthole. It's a fleshlight. Denis Villeneuve's Dune 2.
Gosh, I cannot wait.
And the early reviews are out. It's always good when a movie lets reviews come out a week ahead of time, because that's usually a good thing. And they are overwhelmingly positive. I think I sent you some of the adjectives people were using, like epic, masterpiece, classic, immersive.
I saw someone was like, Denny's Empire Strikes Back. Like, this is
that's what
his
Nolan
empire.
said that.
So I was like,
Christopher Nolan said that. Yeah.
Let's fucking go.
It's high praise. But all right, that's it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we will see you next week.
Bye.